Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is The Listening Mentor, and our show is all about offering you tips, strategies, and giving you scenarios for elevated listening to have more effective relationships, deeper connections, and better communication. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I am the Listening Mentor and the founder and president and chief listening officer here at our network. The star of our show is the Harley Street stress expert, also known as Caroline HEWARD. Let's welcome her to the program. Hello.
Hello.
How's Harley Street?
Well, it's not doing very much at the moment because most of it's over the phone or online, or it's interesting times.
Yeah,
People
absolutely. I think it's interesting.
Much more going online now.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to deliver services the way people want to pay for them, the way that they want to receive them. So I think it's good because more people can have access to services if they don't have to go in person.
Well, and then it's international, so I'm having people sort of from different countries, whereas they can't trek up to Harley Street.
Exactly.
So it makes me much more amenable and versatile to more people.
More of you for more people who need you. So I think that's fantastic. Our topic today is very interesting. It's guilt or shame. What's the difference? Sometimes we get all caught up in one or both of these, and maybe we're experiencing something completely different, or maybe we're going from one to the other. We're going to explore that. Before we do, Caroline, as you know, I always love to have you give some background to our viewers and our listeners about how it is that you work with people to help them bust their stress and be in a better place. So do tell us.
Well, I help you bust your stress by identifying root cause of your symptoms. So it's whatever you're complaining about, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, or whether it's behavioral pain, so relationship issues, bereavement issues, whether you're aching and paining, sort of back, neck, legs, or whether you've got anger management issues. So whatever it is that's not working for you, that's how I help you. I identify the root cause, so the initial trauma when it first occurred, and that literally releases emotion, which moves you into a state of inner peace and harmony, and the symptom literally lifts and leaves you. And it's quick. What I do is really quick. You don't have to see me week in, week out. It's really, really quick. I offer a free consultation online or over the phone. You can email me to book in on NoMoreStress@live.co.uk, and you will feel incredibly relaxed at the end of that consultation and gain a really, really amazing sleep.
Thank you so much. That's what we all need. It's that elusive sleep. I don't know what happens. I'm usually a pretty good sleeper, but of course I have, as you know, ulcerative colitis, and that keeps you running through the middle of the night. It's hard to sleep. But when we find a routine where we can fall asleep and stay asleep, wow, don't we feel great? For
Knocked
sure.
Out.
Yeah, and ready to take on a new day full of energy. So, Caroline, I want to move into our topic because it's a deep one. And I feel that each of us experience guilt or shame based on situations, based on relationships. Maybe we're aware of what we're feeling. Maybe we are not aware of it until much later. Maybe we're harboring these feelings for years. We put things away in terms of our feelings, or certain situations we were in, certain experiences we had, we just locked it down, and then it starts to rear its ugly head, and we start to feel that guilt or shame or something else. So let's start off, if you would, with a basic definition of guilt and a definition of shame, and then let's go from there. How does that sound?
Yeah. Guilt is the saboteur of the sacral chakra. So that's the second chakra up, which is related to your emotions and feelings. and you can literally shut down the emotions and feelings because things are difficult, things are challenging, and as you said, Dr. JACALYN, that you compartmentalize challenges that are difficult to deal with at the time. So when you shut down the feelings and emotions, the saboteur of the sacral energy, that's the second chakra, is guilt. And so the second chakra is all about pleasure and desire and your spontaneity and fun and childlikeness. And so essentially, when you shut down the emotions and feelings, this is where the term guilty pleasure comes from. And we feel guilty and sinful for having a bar of chocolate or a piece of chocolate cake, or we've indulged in something that perhaps we shouldn't have done. So guilt is when we're aware of something that is not working, that we're sort of going after something that's difficult for us, that we don't feel we should be doing, and then the saboteur of that is guilt. So if you want to have a nice piece of chocolate cake, it's better to have that and not feel guilty about it. Otherwise, the guilt will put on more calories. Shame is actually related to the solar plexus. That's the next one up in the chakra system. And shame is related to our self-esteem, our confidence, our will, our power. And our control in a situation. And sometimes we feel that we should be in control, and then we should be doing something that then we feel ashamed that we haven't responded in the way that we should. I know this is a convoluted way of describing it, but that's what you get with me. I'm looking at the much deeper issues of how the mind and body connect, and the psychology and behavior behind people's responses.
Thank you, Caroline. That really was very helpful. So, would you say that shame, you just mentioned a definition, you also described guilt. Would you say that shame or guilt are curable? Or are they actually something that we can identify and then set up barriers or protocols or behavior patterns so that we don't experience them?
Oh, absolutely. This is what we're doing to ourselves. It's not what somebody else is doing to us. It's what we're doing. And that's where your control lies. When you realize that you're doing it to you, then you can change what you're doing to you. And that's where it's possible. So if you're feeling, I've used some whimsical examples, like, we say, oh, I'm having that guilty pleasure with that piece of chocolate cake. I shouldn't really, because it'll pile on the pounds. And that's one that's very common that we say. And, my response to that is, to eat the piece of chocolate cake and enjoy it, because the calories you'll have more calories on the guilt than you would be from the chocolate piece of cake. So it's about managing how we respond, that it's okay to enjoy. It's okay to have pleasure. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to laugh. That sometimes we feel that we shouldn't have fun because the family or the relationship is in a difficult, challenging situation, and we don't feel that we should be like that. But we were born like that. We were born, if you look at a young baby, they're laughing and they're running around playing tig and having fun, and there is no shame or guilt or anything or fear, that they're just literally pure. They're pure heart, and they're running around in an innocence because everything is up for grabs. So it's only when we feel that we shouldn't do something. This is the shoulda, woulda, coulda. I should have done this. I should have done that. And shame, it's when we feel ashamed of something we've done. But, when we're in awareness of it, we can change that shame and decide that, we did what we felt was right at the time. And, now we have more information that we would do something different next time. But it does affect our self-esteem and our confidence. So it is important to recognize that it isn't anyone doing that to us, The shame isn't somebody pushing that onto us. It's what we're feeling internally. And because we're feeling it, we can change that feeling.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And I want to talk a little bit about these two as it relates to some of the headlines in the media. We've heard about people quiet quitting and
Mhm.
they're staying in their job, but they're actually not doing what they're supposed to be doing, of all of what they're supposed to be doing. And I would imagine if you have some type of respect for yourself and maybe respect even for your employer, that you might feel something about this, that you're getting paid but you're not doing what you're getting paid to do. Would that fall under guilt or shame, or could it be both? Or maybe somebody just doesn't care and says, hey, I deserve this money, I'm taking the money, and I don't care if I do anything or not.
Well, that's exactly, it's our response. It's always in alignment with how we're responding to it. So it could be water off a duck's back and we don't care. And so we're getting paid, we're there, we turn up, we show up. If there isn't work there, then so what? And that's when it's not affecting us, because we're saying, well, it is what it is, and we're just going to take the money because that's what I'm getting paid for. I'm coming into work. If there isn't work, that's not my problem. So that's sort of I don't know whether that's healthy or not, but it's a response mechanism that means that they're not carrying any guilt or shame. And if you are carrying a level of shame, it'll be because your self-esteem or your confidence has been affected, your power, your control within the situation has been affected. And sometimes, some people will feel almost ashamed about collecting that paycheck when they're not doing very much. And then there is a need to collect that paycheck. So then there will be a guilt feeling. So it'll come from different places, from different experiences of their own emotional, undealt with emotions.
Wow, it's really interesting. I've got several questions as a follow-up to that. So, in the same scenario with the quiet quitting, this person who has work that they're supposed to be doing, but literally is not doing it and getting paid, is meeting up with some friends, maybe for coffee or something to eat or a drink on the end of the week on a Friday night, like tonight. And the other people are actually working hard wherever it is they're working, and they're like grinding it out and getting their paycheck. And this quiet quitter just mentions, hey, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm watching Facebook, I'm doing Netflix on my phone, and I'm just getting a paycheck. And the other people are sort of now in a state of shock, maybe even volunteering comments. If that person, the first person, the quiet quitter, if that person doesn't have empathy or compassion for the other people, they could be perceived as maybe egotistical or somebody who's void of feelings. And I'm not sure if either one of them would actually be the case, but it might say something about that person to other people. What are your thoughts?
Yes, it would, because it's how you manage that. Because if somebody's working their little socks off and then they're listening to somebody else saying that they're, just happily looking at Facebook and doing their own messages, then there's going to be a level of unhappiness about that, and, well, who do you think you are then? You're getting away with it. And there will be, a difficult experience between the two, because one's working real hard and the other one's just getting paid for nothing. And it just depends, on what state of emotion that the person is in that's overworked. When you're overworked and you're, running against deadlines and, you're really tired, and then you will respond from that place of being tired, and that will create problems, because the other person's really relaxed and they will feel almost aggrieved. Why do they have to work so hard?
Thank you so much for that insight. I appreciate it. Let's move on to another example. And this could be really uh, perceived by anyone. They could happen really to anyone. That your family member, your coworker, your friend, whomever, is very inquisitive about your day, about your life, and you start giving really short answers because you don't feel like engaging, or maybe you just want to keep information to yourself, and you realize that you've put up walls, right? We all do this at times. We just put up walls to keep people away because we don't have the time, we don't have the emotion, whatever it might be. This can also lead to some feelings of guilt, can it?
Yes, and that's because the person that's asking the questions wants to know. It's like, small talk conversation. And when there's no responses or little response, they will feel that. They will feel that there's that restriction, and they will feel that they're being stonewalled. And so that will then bring them into saying, well, what's wrong then? What's the matter? What's wrong with you? What's happened? And that makes you feel even worse, if you're the one that's keeping the information to yourself. And that creates this interrogator situation where they'll just keep asking questions because they know something's wrong and they want to know. And, I would say that when somebody's asking those questions, they're probably asking out of a place of compassion. But it's not very comfortable when you're in that situation because, if you don't want to say, you don't want to say. And so, it leads into the two people, one wanting to engage in conversation and share, and the other person saying, look, that's my work, that's almost my business, I don't want to talk about it. And you have to find a medium, of being truthful, and the person that's, sort of put up this brick wall, to say, look, can we not talk about work, and literally get to a space of honesty. Maybe it was a bad day, maybe it was a difficult day. And, they might want to share, oh, it's a really difficult day today. I don't really want to talk about it because, work's done now. Let's enjoy our time here. And, in that place of authenticity and truth, and, speaking from a place of, yes, it was painful, but, I really don't want to give the details. Because when you do give the details and you recount the story of what happens is you start reliving it again, you start feeling it, and it's not so nice. And all you want to do is park it. It was at work and now you're at home and you don't want to be there.
Yes, that's so true. And then, of course, there's this statement from the other person: I can't deal with this anymore. You're making me feel so guilty for not telling you about my day. Can I make you feel guilty, Caroline?
This is a really, really, oh gosh, this is so interesting. When somebody says, you make me feel, nobody can make you feel anything. If somebody's saying, you make me feel guilty, and they're pointing one finger at you, they're pointing three fingers back to the power of the thumb, back to themselves. And so they disempower themselves totally by putting the blame on the other person. And we say this so often, and it's only because we don't know, we're not taught these things. And so when we say, you make me feel angry, you make me feel sad, you make me feel this, then you just give away all your power, all your confidence and control to do something about it. If you say, when we're in this situation, I feel disempowered, so you bring it back to the I. It's not the person, it's the situation. When we're in the situation, I always feel out of control. I always feel unhappy. And then you disassociate the person from the situation because the person isn't the situation and neither are you. And so if you disassociate by saying, when I'm doing this activity, I feel really sad. Or when I'm doing this activity, or when we're doing this activity, I don't enjoy it, I don't feel happy. And then you can do something about it, because you can change the activity that you're doing and do something that makes you feel good.
All right, I'm going to take it to another level. Thank you. You've heard the expression, "You've made me so happy," or "You make me so happy." What if we replace that with, "You've made me so guilty"? You make me so guilty. Does that work?
Well, no, and it's always about your inner response. Nobody can actually specifically make you feel happy. It's your response to what they have done that makes you feel happy. Because you could just as easily say, you make me feel really angry. And it's the event, the situation, the experience, the circumstances. It might be that the person does make them laugh. And I frequently say, I'm just trying to think of the words that I use. You're so funny, you make me laugh. And it's not them, it's the joke that makes me laugh. So that's giving you, a candid, way to look at it. But it's their humor, and I have a lot of people posting humor in my feed on social media. And, I frequently look and I'm laughing, and that's because they've shared something that's funny. I've responded, but I could have equally have responded in a negative way, saying, oh gosh, my feed is full of, people trying to make jokes and I just wish they were serious. So it is about how you respond and react. If somebody is sharing, giving an activity or doing something that makes you feel good, then it's good to say that. But the person specifically is sharing an experience that makes you feel. It's not that you disempower yourself. I feel happy when I read your posts.
Thank you so much for explaining that. I'm wondering, with the work that you do to help people, guilt and shame, do they show up physically in the body the same way? So let me give an example. I feel guilty about eating sugar, which is not true, but I'm just saying, because I don't eat sugar. But let's say this is true. I feel guilty, but I keep eating it. And so days turn into weeks, turn into months, and I've been harboring this. And every time I eat the chocolate cake or I eat the candy, I'm secretly hating myself inside. And so maybe the guilt starts to become shame. I don't even know if this is a transition or not, because now I'm filled with the fact that I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing, but I can't stop myself from doing it because I don't have the willpower. And so this guilt has turned into something much more detrimental. These are questions, by the way.
Yeah. Yes, when you're feeling guilty, that is the saboteur of the second chakra, from the pleasure center, I'm going to call it, the sacral chakra, which is where we have our desire, our pleasure, our fun, our spontaneity, and our childlikeness. So it's where we're moving towards the things that we desire to do and enjoy, and food is one of them. And so when you're feeling guilty about that chocolate cake or indulging in sugar, then that then is going to have an effect, because it will change the calorific value in your body, because it will add more weight and it will have a detrimental effect. Because when you're negative and talking about things negatively, it builds an acidity in the body, and it will create some issues within the body in terms of symptoms. When you are having that guilty pleasure, but hating yourself for it, that's where you move into the next chakra, which is the solar plexus, which is the abdominal brain and the upper abdomen. And when you're in that space, that's the willpower. That's the place of being in a space of control within yourself. So having all the responsibility and the control. So yes, if you're in a guilty pleasure, and it's constant and that's affecting you, it can move to the solar plexus, which is about the fact that you're feeling shameful of that eating the cake. And this is where irritable bowel syndrome comes from. This is where anorexia lives, anorexia and bulimia. So people will eat for pleasure and for desire and for enjoyment, which is in their second chakra. And then they will feel guilty. They will feel guilty about it, which is the saboteur of the sacral chakra. And then they will feel ashamed. So they'll go up to the solar plexus and feel ashamed of their behavior because they haven't got the willpower. And so that they will then start to feel ashamed about what they've been doing. And so that will then turn on itself in terms of not feeling in control.
Thank you. And you mentioned IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, and I want to just touch on this briefly, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, but I know you can take it. So, as you know, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in April of 1991. I've had the disease for 31 years, and I just spoke to the doctor who diagnosed me all those years ago, and he said more and more people are getting diagnosed, and there's more and more treatments that are available, which is good news. But when I was diagnosed, people believed that the disease was related to stress, so that if you were under stress, you literally brought it on yourself. And now, after all the years of research, they've determined that is not the case. It's an autoimmune disease. Maybe it's genetic, it's environmental, whatever the case may be. Stress can make it worse. There can be triggers like food or stress, et cetera, et cetera. So my question to you is this, and I'm just going to just relate it to me specifically. So I don't believe that I did anything that caused me to get the disease. My grandmother had something similar. However, after I was diagnosed with the disease, and I said this to my doctor on the phone the other day, I said, listen, when you told me that news, it wasn't the way that you delivered it. It was the reality that I said to myself, I don't believe anyone will ever be able to love me with me having this disease. And I still believe that that's true. So where I'm going with this whole thing is that having that disease, he said, the doctor said to me, he said, listen, there is nothing pleasant about ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. There is nothing good that comes from it. It is a disease that is crippling in many ways. And I have lived in shame from having the disease. I never even spoke about it until 2018 because you literally lose control of your bowels in public where you're in horrible, hideous pain. So why I'm bringing this up, because we're talking about shame, is that I personally lived with that shame. I would be so embarrassed to get into a relationship with someone because what if I got sick? How am I going to tell them? So every relationship that I had was dysfunctional because I couldn't be upfront about what was going on with me because I truly believed that nobody would ever love me. And then when I finally did tell somebody that I really cared about, a guy I was dating, he said that I was dirty and disgusting and he broke up with me. So that I've lived with the shame for all these years and I'm talking about it, but it's still there and I still have the disease. So what do you have to say to me?
Well, there's a lot there. And the solar plexus is about anger, unexpressed anger. And when something's ulcerated, that's an acid, which is anger. So arthritis is anger as well. So there will be, I don't feel very comfortable in doing this actually, but, so I want to be careful about, not divulging too much here. Sort of there will have been something that has happened in your life that you are angry about that you've not dealt with in terms of expressed the anger. You've literally had to kind of, brush yourself down and get on with stuff, which is what we do. Something happens, we don't handle it, and we don't feel in control of the situation because the solar plexus is all about being in control, and being in a space of your own power and your confidence. And if there's been a situation where you've not felt in your power and in control, or you felt disempowered in a situation, so feeling you have all the responsibility but none of the control, it will create a buildup of acid in the body, because this is where, this is the where the biggest acid is in terms of turning your food to chyme. And so stress can make your body more acidic.
Yeah, I believe that. Here's where I have a different take on. I am not pro medicine. In fact, up until this, I was on one thing. That's it, one medication, which is for ulcerative colitis. I got rid of my blood pressure medicine. I mean, I'm fairly healthy. I always say I'm the healthiest unhealthy person I know. But where I find that I have a different perspective is, if you look at the colon, for example, I'm just being specific in this case, it's like a car, right? The thing gets beat up over time. And if you have enough instances of ulcers, it's not going to be the same colon. It's just like a car after you drive it off the lot. It's not the same as when it's sitting in the showroom. So it's subject to things that it wouldn't be subjected to before, because it's not as strong as it used to be. So when you start to include environmental issues, getting older, all the things that come with that, food triggers, et cetera, then I think the likelihood of sparking something physically in the body, it's going to go to the weakest link. So for me, the weakest link is my colon.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Some people will have skin disorders like psoriasis, eczema, and every time that they feel stressed or not in control of something, that they will then, sort of have an overproduction of white blood cells, which is what psoriasis is. Or they might have eczema. And, that will be, again, another place of somebody feeling uncomfortable, hiding it. And we all have our different things that happen when we're stressed. Some people get migraines, some people get headaches, some people literally just take themselves off and go to sleep because they can't face the world. So we all have our different things, and we will know when we're stressed what it is. Some people can't sleep. They go to bed and their mind goes round and round and they can't sleep, and that's because they can't switch off the mind. So we all have a weak point, a trigger that says, I'm stressed, and mine used to be, I used to get an annual cold long time ago, and it was every time sort of we'd build up to Christmas, and when we broke up for Christmas on Christmas Eve, that the last day of work, I would land up with a cold, and then it would completely clear by the time I was ready to go back to work again. It was really annoying. So I'd have an awful Christmas because I was full of cold. But now that doesn't happen because I'm not in that stressful environment in the way that I used to be. And there are many people that they don't want to feel that level of exhaustion or stress, so they just keep going. And when they relax, that's when it hits them, and it hits them in their weakest area.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I want to kind of circle back to the beginning of the show when you were talking about guilty pleasures. I've mentioned this before, but since I started this platform, we've had a number of people on here who are longevity experts, aging gracefully experts. And so I started really taking to heart a number of the things that people were saying. And I looked at the life choices I was making and how I was showing up. And so I changed a lot of my behavior. I gave up caffeine 4 years ago. I gave up sugar, I think it was 10 months ago. I gave up alcohol. I could go on and on and on. And then when I went for the colonoscopy on Monday, the doctor said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I feel great." And he said, "What do you attribute it to?" I said, "I attribute it to my healthy lifestyle." And then the colonoscopy was finished, and he told me the disease had spread through my entire colon. And I said, "What? How can that be? I've given up everything that brought me joy except for working out." So now I have a different perspective. And the perspective is that by giving up the guilty pleasures, I felt like I was punishing myself so I could be healthy. And to find out that I wasn't healthy after I gave them all up, I thought after this gets into remission, I'm going to enjoy some of those things and I'm not going to feel guilty about it, because the sacrifice didn't really add up to reality of where I am today, if that makes any sense.
Yes, because if we're stressed, or sort of if we are angry about something and it's been suppressed, it will affect the body. And so when you are drinking lots of very strong coffee or alcohol or lots of red meat, for instance, or yogurts, those are acid forming in the body, and so they will create more of an acid which will irritate the colon and irritate things like arthritis and make it more painful. And so then it's like a vicious circle. It's not so much the food, obviously that is attributing to it, it's the unexpressed, the suppressed emotions that are not necessarily about now. It could be about a past trauma or something that happened, when in your childhood, or sort of in your young adulthood, that has been talked through, that you've actually got through whatever it was, from a practical level, from a physical level, and from a logical space. And it's about the unexpressed emotions and feelings that have an impact. And the body has a memory, because we're, depending on what research you use, between 60 and 80 parts water. So if it's still there, if the memory is still there, it just creates it continually. And it is possible to literally diminish acidic body by alkalizing it, from a physical perspective. But the acidic level will come back, because when the emotion hasn't been dealt with, so if there's anger there, it will create more acid in the body. So when you're shouting and screaming and you're angry about this and angry about that, that will create an acidic level in the body.
That makes
I'm not saying that
sense.
you are, but that
Yeah.
this is sort of, it's our general beingness. And and so that's why, I don't know whether you've noticed, I'm always sort of saying, I'm so grateful, I really am so grateful for this opportunity, or I'm really grateful for my mentors. And that's because I know that when you are in a space of gratitude, it moves you out of anger and shame, which is the lower survival centers, and up into the heart. And when you're in the heart, that elevates the emotion, and so you feel different. And compassion comes in the heart chakra as well. So it's about elevating the emotions from whatever it is, blame, shame, guilt, bringing them up, and sort of moving them into compassion or gratitude or love or kindness. These elevated emotions will change the experience that you're having, and that actually diminishes, it reduces the acidity in the body.
I hear everything you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. I think the part that I've taken a step back is that, and we're just talking about me at the moment, but the anger that I have is from being in pain for so many years. That makes me angry.
Yeah.
It makes me angry that I've taken this medicine for all these years. But I have to say this, as I was driving back, I wasn't driving, I was being driven from the procedure. I said to myself, thank you, God. I said out loud, thank you, God. I am so grateful. They could have said I had cancer. They could have said, we are actually admitting you to the hospital at this moment. We're scheduling surgery. There's so many things they could have said that they didn't say. So there is a lot always to be grateful for. But I also think you get into that circuit, especially you deal with people who are in pain. Pain is not fun, and we build up tolerances to it. Like, I think to myself, I'm a very strong person, because like I'm in horrible pain right now talking to you. Probably don't even know that. But you straight face, you go through and you deal with it. But it does make me angry that I'm in this pain and I did all the right things. So I'm not angry about anything outside of it, but I'm angry about the situation when you like intermittent fast for 16 hours every single day. I'm doing that for 6 months. It doesn't make any sense. So that is angering. But at the same time, I am very grateful that it's not worse than it is.
This is a beautiful topic, because when you're focused on the pain, it literally creates more pain. So whatever you're focused on, the neurons, the neuronites in the blood, in the brain, they will fire and wire together in terms of whatever you're focused on. So if you're focused on the negative and what's not working, and that is something that, when you're in pain, that's really difficult to handle. And when you're constantly focused on that and not taking your attention into another place. So for instance, if I'm in pain, I'll go and do a meditation or a gong bath, or I chant, and I feel different. I don't feel in my body. I did an ecstatic dance last Wednesday and I didn't feel anything. I just felt like I was on air, and it was amazing. And it was really, I will use the word blissful, and there's no talking, no alcohol, no smoking, no phones, no chit chat, no shoes. And I just felt amazing, and I absolutely adore it. And I've forgotten, I hadn't been for a little while, and I'd forgotten how wonderful I felt after it. And that was not focused on anything or anyone, just being in the music and flowing, my body flowing in the vibration of the music. And it was absolutely incredible. And this is what children do. Very young children, they will be in an experience and be totally present in that experience rather than in their minds. So what I'm actually saying is meditation. It doesn't have to be that you're sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop. You can be dancing, you can be singing. These are meditations. You can be in the shower and being fully present. Being in a meditation is not doing something. You can be in a walking meditation where you're totally present, doing that one thing and not doing other things. And that will bring down your level of acidity, and it will move you into a place of feeling really good. Many people say when they've been to the gym that they feel amazing. They just feel like they could, do another 10 rounds. And that's great. And that's because they've been focused on the activity and they feel good.
Yes, that's definitely true. Thanks for sharing that. Every day, actually, except for one, when I had the colonoscopy, I go to this place and I do this fitness class, and it's I think it's one of the hardest workouts out there, solid core. And I walk in and I'm tired and I'm sort of blah, and I get on that bench and I'm in a different world, and I walk out pumped up, psyched. I pushed myself as hard as I could, and it's really it's just an energy exchange. It's loud music, and the instructors calling out things to do, and it's amazing to me. So I think getting out of your head, whether it's with a meditation or workout, whatever it might be, it's so important. Taking a walk, just getting away from it, really does help to release, I guess, endorphins or something, so that you're not focused on the pain.
Yeah, when you move when you're in the mind here and in the thought, that's where the pain resides. And when you move out of the mind and you move down into the heart or down into the body, the physical body, then there is no thoughts, there is no pain. There is only the experience of that that wonderful pleasure. Many people actually comment, especially in the winter when it's dark, especially in England, it's dark and wet and miserable, that they know they got to go to the gym, and they get up and they think, oh, do you know what, I can't do it. And they always feel guilty that they don't go to the gym, because they always feel amazing when they've gone to the gym. And this is this guilty thing that goes on. I don't know why I don't go, because I always feel great. I just don't want to go because I can't face going out in the dark and in the wet and in the the miserableness of the winter. It's always easy to do things when the sun is shining and it's sort of warmer. You have more motivation. But it's harder to motivate yourself when it's cold and damp and wet and miserable, and you just think, oh, I'll just stay in bed. But it because it makes you feel good, there are people that will push through that and go and do the activity. And whenever I do my dancing or my chanting, that's my thing, and I can just dance for 2 hours solid, sometimes 3, and I will really dance, I've let it all go. and it just makes me feel amazing. And that's my thing. Your thing is the gym, and that makes you feel good. My thing is dancing, chanting, so singing Sanskrit mantras. And I've landed up going to concerts where there's a live band playing different instruments and singing, and everybody's like dancing and singing and feeling joyous and amazing, and it just moves you. Put that ABBA song on, and everybody's dancing and singing, Dancing Queen. And it's that experience, and the fact that you smiled as soon as I said Dancing Queen, because that's what it does. It's not focused on the specificity of what's not working. It's looking at another activity that makes you feel good. And when you feel good, that's when you're in the space of your pleasure, your desire, your fun, your sort of your enjoyment. That's the second chakra, and the saboteur of that is guilt. So when you're not having that fun, you'll feel guilty. So
Yes.
And it makes sense, that's sort of, this is where this phrase comes from, guilty pleasures. I actually say, oh, I'm having my guilty pleasure. I had a bit of a guilty pleasure of watching QVC and buying things from QVC because there were such great deals, and I had a bit of a thing, I'd watch for the deals, and I would buy all these cosmetics and beauty products, and I would, be a bit fixed with it. And I would say, this is my guilty pleasure. But I wasn't saying it so it was negative. I was actually saying that, this is my guilty pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, I really enjoy it because I get some really nice product, and I haven't paid tons of money for it, and I've got really good value and really, really nice stuff, for not anywhere near where I would have paid for it normally. So it's that, and I've defied that guilt then and said it's a pleasure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think on a future episode, we can talk about shopping. There's a lot of shame that people experience from shopping, but that's another topic. And we're already over our time. We're almost into Pet Psychic Amina. So, Caroline, I'm going to spotlight you. Thank you for another brilliant episode. How can people reach out and hire you and get this free 30-minute Zoom Stress Buster consultation?
Well, you can reach out on email, NoMoreStress@live.co.uk, or call me on, if you're international, +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. I offer a free 30-minute consultation, whether it be by phone, on Zoom, or Skype. Let me help you understand what's causing your stress, and literally bust your stress so that you feel relaxed, you move from head to heart, and have an incredible night's sleep. I look forward to your call and you reaching out for me to help you.
Please do contact Caroline. Start to feel better right away. What are you waiting for? Take this moment. All right, Caroline, thank you. Have a beautiful weekend. And we will see you on Tuesday for your Talking Heads episode. Everyone, please do stay with us. Pet Psychic Amina is coming up with our new time, which is right after this show. We'll be back shortly. Bye, everyone. Thank you.